Associations may be disorganized, and time and space relationships are lost.
What is up, everybody? Thank you for tuning into the Hippy Speedball Podcast. It is Joe, your host with the most, Joe. And as you see, I am back up in the Zoom room. We're setting up all these distance episodes to meet all sorts of new friends that we got here on the podcast. If this is your first time watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can get notified anytime we have a new episode pop up. Today on the show, it's going to be a little bit of a new take today on the podcast. So one thing that we actually need to really emphasize with the Hippy Speedball Podcast is not only cannabis users, but cannabis allies. Not everybody is a user, but people see the truth behind it. People see the love. People see the passion. People know what's up, even if they don't use it personally. So that's one thing that we're really going to have more and more and more on the show, even if they're not a user, even if they don't currently use it. It's totally fine. They love it. They understand it. So today I'm joined by an amazing person who's really making waves in music, acting, all over the place, and I'm really excited to have her on the show. So please welcome Amanda Wilkinson. Thank you so much for joining, Amanda. I really appreciate
Joe.
you.
You just gave me chills. Thank you so much for your support.
I'm glad.
I'm really thankful. It's really amazing to be able to connect with people, especially on a social media platform that's super positive. And you connected with me, and you've supported basically anything that I've done, and it's really amazing. It's always appreciated. And here we are. You reached out just to have some great conversation, great points of view of things and life, and just sharing. Here we are. So thank you for your time. And
yeah, for sure. I mean, thanks. Yeah, and thanks for taking the time.
Right, we're breaking the ice. We've already broken the ice.
I got you. All right, so you're really making a lot of waves right now in music and film, and you're really doing a lot, which is what really inspired me to want to reach out to you, because I'm a really artsy person too. And so let's talk about Taking My Time. You've been working a lot on this song and everything like that. What inspired you to write this? What's the meaning behind it, and how was the journey when it came to making it and making this music video?
Wow. Taking My Time, I actually wrote a couple of years ago. It was based on, I guess in a nutshell, the way I can describe it is it was a therapeutic process. It was sort of an acceptance stage of your life of something that you're moving on from. So, people say you go through a grieving process. It's basically post-grief. It's the acceptance of something happening in your life, or whether, and in this instance, I generalize it too, where, it could be moving on from a relationship, you can be moving on from a situation, whatever it may be, however it's relatable to others while they listen. But realistically for me, it was the sense of accepting something and the realization that came of it, of what really wasn't, and having more clarity of the situation and being able to take that and really positively move forward. It was just a really, really therapeutic experience, I would have to say. For me, it was that was it. And taking your time back for you. So literally taking your time. It's nothing about slowing things down or anything like that. It was really just learning to take back the time that you've given so much to something else or someone else that really wasn't good for you. Maybe you knew that, maybe you didn't. Either way, you know what you need for yourself, and to be able to move forward and go on.
Nice. So it was more about taking your time, not like I'm taking my time doing this. It was more like taking my time.
Literally taking your time back. It's getting your power back, right? It's taking your time back for yourself that you need to be in a better place, to be in that place that you were already there, maybe situations, people, whatever circumstances kind of take that away from us sometimes, especially if it's unforeseen, if it's unexpected, or maybe just really took a lot out of you in a way, in a sense.
Well,
So,
definitely, and that's a really good message to get out there, because, you know, in this day and age, whenever we have so much massive information coming at us at once and everything like that, sometimes you can really get drawn away from the actual moments and the time that do matter, and being able to take that back is super important. And so I like that you actually took that with the message instead of the way that everybody else. You just probably did a giant mind fuck on a whole lot of people. Just dropping it out there right now.
it's like, take back your time to do what you need to do for yourself. Nice. To be in that great place. Absolutely.
Especially this day and age, it's kind of important to be a little bit more selfish these days, to be perfectly honest, you know, like helping people, but also looking out for, you know, like if you can't, I always say you can't build skyscrapers on a non-sturdy foundation. So if you're, I mean, you can't do anything, you know, or you can't guide ships in on a, you know, a dimming lighthouse. You know, if your bulb isn't bright enough, then you can't help anybody else. You're just going to guide people towards rocks.
Right. And you know, I want to bounce off a little bit of that, because people use that word selfish, and I actually don't really say being selfish. It's really just understanding how much, it's really being honest. It's your honesty, not only
that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
But it's honesty with yourself too. It's really to say, sure, hey, am I in a position to give more than what I can at this moment to something or someone else that is needing something that I really don't have to give, really, because that's what takes away from us. And we're not here to take away from someone, or, you know, especially other people in our lives, but it's really about how we collaborate. It's how we, what was I trying to say? It's really how we, it's really lost my train of thought.
No, it's okay.
It's a C word. It's a C word. It's a good one, though. It's a good one.
I got you. No,
oh my gosh. Yeah, it's how how we're able to give back to one another versus take away.
Mm-hmm.
It's you know, in a good way.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure.
We have to be honest with that, you know, especially, you know, in conversation, especially with relationships. People say, you know, whatever they may have a take on relationships these days, especially in society, I really just say that just be honest with yourself and with others. You know, so many people, I feel like, get into a relationship for the wrong reasons most of the time.
That's
definitely why they fail. Definitely. You have to be honest. You have to be in a good place with yourself to be able to not only give to someone else, but be in that good space for someone else and not take away from them.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. Yeah.
So it's not really selfishness. It's really honesty.
Yeah. That is a really good way to put it, actually. Yeah. So maybe not selfish in like the traditional sense that people know the word, but in a sense of being like honest with yourself and knowing your own basic needs. So that way you can kind of progress and build upon that to help others build upon their own. And everything.
Right.
Because, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, yeah. So I got you. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
So tell me about your background in music. Have you been into music your whole life? Do you play any instruments at all?
Yes. Well, yes and no. It's been on and off. I come from a very musical family. So it really, I mean, I was writing, I would have to say really writing is one of my biggest things that I do. It's a tool. It's a thing that I've always done to be able to express myself.
Me too. I'm a big writer too.
It's kind of my personal space, really.
Mm-hmm.
And so sharing it's a lot different for me personally than say film, or, you know, I'm sharing a story, I'm sharing a role, I'm sharing something collaboratively. But when it comes to writing and music, it's actually sharing my whole heart. It's really sharing my experiences. It's really sharing my personal space. And so when people ask me about music and, you know, how do you get inspired? What do you do to, you know, write a song, or, you know, whatever it may be, it's literally from my experiences. It's very authentic. It's really a moment that I had, whether it's in a place in a certain time or it's after, and it's me going through that process. So, and so every song is very, very different, very different, just because it comes from a different place, it comes from a different emotion, it comes from a different situation, it comes experience. But no, I've always took to writing as a way of expressing myself, whether it was music or just journaling or writing stories. And it's really how I connect with other people, because, I don't just write music, but I write articles and I share resources, and, I'm very connected with community, and community is one of my, my biggest passions, just collaboratively, just being able to connect and share and help where I can. And so it's really just a way of connecting. And I think music is very, very much that. It's therapeutic, not only just for the artist, but for also the listener. It's a way of supporting, in a sense of, whoever is listening that can relate. It's something that we share. Doesn't always have to be at the same time. We all go through experiences. We all have stories. We don't always go through them at the same time, but whether we have in the past or we will in the future, it's something that anyone can relate to and listen to and appreciate. So I always appreciate when people show that. It means a lot.
Definitely. Yeah, I like that. So like, your musical side definitely comes from more the experiences and all the different aspects of everything you've been in your life. So what is your songwriting process like? Are you usually inspired just by like a line that pops up in your head and then it just kind of flows from there? Or do you like sit down every day and say, oh, I'm going to write, 8 bars, I'm going to write 16 bars, I'm going to write lyrics today? Do you do that every day, or does it kind of inspire?
It comes randomly too. I would say I have these moments where I call debraining, where I could be going on for like a jog or something, and I'll end up going out for hours because I get inspired, and I stop jogging, and then I'm like voice recording, or I'm just typing lyrics, or, I'm going through a mental process of something, whatever it may be. And it's really, it can be sporadic, but also, something could inspire me. Someone else can inspire me. Somebody else can remind me of an experience or something that I've been able to relate to that brought that out, lyrically. Or sometimes I'll come up with random melodies in my head. I'm just humming and I'm like, okay.
Like, that sounds pretty cool. I like that.
Right.
And then you're like, oh wait, no, that fits with these lines I just wrote not too long ago. That happens to be the same amount of syllables. Ooh, what are the odds of that? And next thing you know, you've got a new song written. Nice.
Right.
That's awesome.
And I have so many songs that I've written that, obviously I haven't put out. There's so many songs that I haven't finished. I've had certain experiences or, emotions or, something coming up that made me, write something that I was thinking about. But sometimes, you're just not finished, sometimes it's an experience that you haven't fully, right. You haven't, and the experiences that you haven't fully grasped yet, maybe it's just, it does take time, because for me personally, I can collaborate with others and I can write anything with anyone, genre wise, and just like, if somebody says, I want to write something like this, or, whatever, it's great. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. But that's why, my music tends to be different from a lot more artists or different areas of music, just because it's a personal space. It's not me doing it because I just want to put out something, or I want to fall in a certain category, or because really when people say, where do you fall into? I'm like, I have no idea. I'm just me.
That's a really tough question to ask. I mean,
it really is.
Like, to answer, like, that's a really hard question. I've been in bands and like, what kind of music do you play? I'm like,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, take a listen and you tell me, actually, what kind of music do I play?
If I were to put all of my songs into one album, or even multiple, it's really, multi-genre, really. I have a song coming out actually very, very soon, probably in the next month or so.
Ooh, exciting.
It's called it's super high energy. It's guitar, it's it's fiery. It's it's called Nothing to Lose When You Say Goodbye. So
I like that title. That sounds dope.
Right. And it comes from a place of just knowing that it's okay to walk away and leave something that's not good for you. And because at the end of the day, people have so much fear of losing something, losing someone. Sometimes it's pride. Sometimes it's, oh, well, if I walk away, if I leave, what do I have? Well, don't think like that. It's really, you have everything to look forward to when you do move on.
Well, yeah, especially if it's something that makes you unhappy, because then you don't really have anything to lose, because then you're dropping that thing in the first place. It just comes from that primal fear of treading, uncharted waters. It's like we could stay ashore where it's nice and comfy and cozy, even though we know we might be happier over here instead. And so that's an important topic to tackle these days, especially with the days and the age that we live in, where we're constantly forced to come into comfort, and it kind of creates a lot of weakness, really, to lose a better word for it, weakness within ourselves and within how we look at the world.
Right.
It's definitely a really important thing to talk about.
Absolutely. And I personally love this song. Again, it comes from a different experience that I've had in the past. And, it is that motivator. It's that fiery, get you going and, inspired and empowered. And it's a lot different from everything else that I've done, just because it comes from a higher energy. It's, I wanted to take it to a different level, a different place musically as well. So the instrumentals are just, it's fire. And so
nice.
Whole different.
Nice. Well, I mean, as you see, I'm big into punk rock and stuff like that. So, high energy is a big thing for me. So I love that. Yeah. The more instruments, the more drums, the better, in my opinion.
Right. And, I can't say that I'm a rocker. I love all kinds of music. It has nothing to do with what I listen to. It has everything to do with who I am as, I guess, an artist, you would say. You can't classify me as a rocker girl, but
but you could be a girl that likes rock music. What is a rocker anyway? Is that even a thing anymore? I didn't even know that was a thing anymore.
I don't even know.
Other than in songs, you gotta listen to everything. My playlist goes anything from the Misfits to Tupac to Frank Sinatra to Alice Cooper. It goes all over the freaking place.
And I have so many different language of music in my playlist too. So I literally listen to everything. Yeah.
See, that's something I need to dive into a little bit more. I really like that Latino hip hop, that has that really good high energy style. Yes. But my homeboy sends me yeah. And then also my homeboy, he sends me random Russian techno songs, and he'd be like, bro, you gotta listen to this. And I'd be like, what the fuck did you just send me? And it's some dude dressing in crazy colors and costumes, dressing around a town or something like that. I'm like, what the hell is this? But the music's kind of dope, not even gonna lie.
Right.
My media team's just chilling over there in the heat right now. Betsy's half passed out.
Hi, Betsy.
Oh God. So you have definitely a lot of spirit and a lot of soul that comes out whenever you make music and you're writing music. Do you get the same thing whenever you're acting? Let's talk a little bit about your acting background. How did you get involved in that?
Well, actually it's been something that was my first love too. Film has always been my first love.
Nice. Big movie geek too, actually.
Right. I love the stage. I love film. I love, acting and writing. So all of that coincides, it comes together. And so I've always been a part of it throughout my life. And so it's definitely my first love. But I just tell people you live passionately, and really as an artist, it goes a long way. You're not just one thing. You don't just do one thing. You are an artist. You're well-rounded in different areas of, your craft. If you're a writer, you can write anything. If you can perform, you can really perform anything that your heart feels, connected to. And, that goes along with film too. And it, a lot of the times, you just have to find the right role. You have to, and over time, really, even life experience, because film is, it's real life. It comes from a real place, just through other characters. And
what was your first role that you ever got?
I'm sorry?
What was your first role that you ever got? Your first role in
oh my goodness,
any sort of acting role?
Oh, wow. I don't even remember. Probably, commercials. Probably.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. Because, I've done everything from modeling to, commercial, print, film, things like that too. So it's really a mix of, acting.
You just got it. Yeah, you got it. Well, when you're a creative person, a lot of people don't realize, like, for creative people, it's not necessarily about, doing whatever craft it is that you're passionate about. It's about producing something. Like, like I'm the type of person, like if I'm not making something, I feel depressed. I feel just like not myself. I feel like I have no energy. But then, like, if I'm working on the podcast, if I'm working on something with music, if I'm writing something, like I feel really good about myself. Like that's the only way to really flex that muscle and get that drive going. So for people that aren't creative people, for us creatives, this is the way we have to live. This is like, you see your creative friend going crazy with all sorts of projects. This is just how we have to live. Okay.
It's true. It's so true. And that's why I say, I live passionately. It's like, what do? I do everything that my heart wants to do. It's, if I feel like writing, I write. If I don't, I don't. There's moments where I'm just like, I don't want to record today. Yeah, I just don't feel like it.
Sometimes you shut your brain off.
Right. I need to de-brain in a different area of my creativity.
Yes, exactly.
Whether it's film or it's anything really, with the arts. So I get it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, and it's, you never really like actually shut your brain off, because really you're just kind of diverting it over to something else instead. It's like, oh, I've been really diving too deep into the music. Now I'm just going to write for a little bit. Oh, I've been diving too into the writing. Now I'm going to be like, let's watch some movies and do some studying a little bit, or it's like, you kind of just go all over the place, but you constantly need to be working on something. It's the curse of, I call it the curse of creatives. It's just something that we just have. Like we have to be doing something.
It's true.
Right. So you're not a current cannabis user, but you are a big ally with the cannabis community, because you have some background when it comes to the medicinal aspect of it. And you said that you wanted to talk a little bit about that on the show. And so I wanted to maybe dive a little bit more into that.
Yeah, no, I just want to say that, even though I'm not a user, I've never been, but, from a medical perspective, and there's a lot of discussion, there's a lot of heat on, what's legal, what's beneficial, what is too much, what is, what's okay, what's not okay, especially when it comes to healthcare. And, from my experiences with other people, whether it be family or, friends or, even people that I've worked with, coming from a healthcare, background, when it comes to anything really in life, anything in excess or too much is never good for anyone, right?
Everything's good in moderation. There could be too much of everything.
Right. And so I understand, but at the same time, everyone is different. Every individual has their own experiences. They have their own coping mechanisms with whatever is the motivator behind their use. Whether it's something that needs to be a little bit more evaluated, not only just physical health, but mental health too, really. Sometimes it can be something that people use in excess in the sense of it's a blockade to something that they need to actually confront or maybe heal from. But from, mentally, from mental health perspective, a physical health perspective, in different parts of the world, in different parts of in our country, even the US, it's prescribed. it's a legal prescription. And, in that I understand 100%, when it comes to opioid use, there's only so much that it helps, especially with chronic pain, cancer, surgeries, major injuries, things that aren't curable, fixable, things like that, things that, are really debilitating for people in their lives. Opioid use is very dangerous in the sense of over time, it's not about becoming addicted, but we have opioid receptors in our body naturally, where naturally over time we become more tolerant. So
Yes.
At a point, if you have cancer and it's chronic pain that is just unrelenting pain, that's not going to help you, so I've known of cancer patients, for instance, being prescribed cannabis oil, cannabis in an edible, something that they were able to use to relax, to sleep, to eat, help with, their therapies, their pharmacological therapies, whether it's chemo, whether it's those things. I've had friends who I saw what cancer did to them. And when there was nothing else at the end of their life, how it did help them. So also with surgery, I have friends who are in the medical field, they're doctors, nurses, whatever. And it's prescribed for those who have major surgeries because it's temporary. It's something that's getting them through the acute stage of, pain and surgery and the recovery and things like that. And then you move forward. So from a physical and a mental health care perspective, especially people who have mental illness, a disorder, something that's affecting their ability to function from a day-to-day basis, you look into that. You have to understand that. You can't judge, and I understand that too. You can't look at people and really judge on what they're doing and why they're doing it, especially if you don't really know.
For sure.
We don't walk around with, all of our medical background, on our backs. It's just so I don't look at others in that sense. I'm not judging them in that sense. But realistically, as a holistic point of view, you want to understand a little bit better for those who are very close to you, whether it's family, whether it's friends, is it an issue that needs to be evaluated a little bit more to really help them and support them in the way that they need, versus let me use something as a coping mechanism that's not, it's like enabling them in a sense.
For sure, definitely.
Or is it something that's really highly beneficial? You just never know. There's always a situation, there's always a reason, there's always a why. Yeah. Everyone's different. There's individually, and so that's my take on it.
And I'm really glad that you brought that up, because one thing that a lot of people don't realize, that even the cannabis community and the cannabis community, like industry, really knows, is that everything is good in moderation. That also cannabis isn't like for everybody,
Right.
And you're just using it as a coping mechanism, and your life is still shit otherwise, but now you're just getting high all the time. Then obviously that's not the problem. That's not what's going to help you. I mean, unless you can find a way to make it functional within your life. If it's like a time where it's like, it's making you like you can't function on it, or you're like, you're just you just want to, like, it's affecting your mental health in a bad way. Because also a lot of people don't realize that sometimes if you smoke the wrong strains and then you are dealing with depression and anxiety, it'll just make you want to recluse even more. it'll just make you not want to leave even more, and you'll get even more locked in your own head. And so a lot of people need, like a lot of people, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because a lot of people need to see that, like, the community of the cannabis side really also sees that too. It's like, we get, like, yeah, we want legalization, we want all this other stuff, but we also see that, yeah, it might not be for everybody. You know, sometimes we all have that friend that we don't really want to smoke with anymore because they probably shouldn't be smoking in the first place.
Right. And like I said, you know, me personally, I personally don't have a need. And I've,
for sure, but you understand it though. Like, you understand it.
Right. And like I said, you know, if it's someone that's close to you and you feel like it's a situation where it's abusing for the wrong reasons, or maybe it's, of course, you know, look into their mental health. Are they depressed? Are they undiagnosed with maybe anxiety or disorder, or something that they're masking, or maybe they're in denial of, that they really need long-term care and support for? Because realistically, it's about how are you functioning each and every single day throughout your life, in a sense of, you know, just being healthy mentally and physically. And if you're not physically healthy, like I said, a chronic situation, cancer, a disease, chronic pain, you know, things like that. And I've seen what all of that does to people. I've had those people in my life personally, where I've seen, opioids kill, you know, family members. I've seen it where, again, unrelenting pain. Opioids are not going to necessarily help that chronically. If you're debilitated for 20 something years, you know, especially as an elderly, you know, older adult, what do you do? You know, and cannabis comes, I don't know enough about it, to be honest with you, about, like you mentioned, different strains, different things, but I know it comes in different forms. You know, it's oils and essential oils and, you know, things like that can be therapeutic. So I see that in a healthcare perspective and support that. And, you know, I can't say no to something for someone that it works for, you know, in a more positive way.
For sure.
Yeah,
when it comes to like the different strains and stuff, it almost kind of like, so when it comes to cannabis, when it interacting with people's cannabinoid systems, just you know, a little bit of education while we're here on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, so when it comes to interacting with the cannabinoid system, a lot of it actually has an effect with the terpenes that are involved. And it's the same type of principle. Like if you were to make a tea with different types of flowers, right, they would all give you different effects. Like if you were to have a lavender style tea, it would probably make you more sleepy. And it's because there's a terpene in there called linalool. And then there's also a terpene in cannabis. The same terpene, linalool, is found in a lot of strains that make you sleepy. Ironically, the same one that makes you with, like, you know, with lavender, like the same exact terpene is in cannabis too. And so there's a really great connection. And so when it comes to different strains, it's almost like the same thing. It's like different flowers make different things. So like it could have a different effect for different illnesses. So I actually just did an episode actually just recently, and I was just talking about this, how the difference between an indica and a sativa. An indica makes you more tired. It makes you a little bit more kind of like couch locked. It also helps with your appetite. It's what they give a lot of cancer patients, helps them sleep, helps them eat. And then a sativa gives you more energy. It makes you more uplifted, more euphoric, more creative. That's really beneficial for people that maybe have like a mental illness, because if you smoke like an indica, it'll kind of like lock you in. But then
like a depression or something like that.
Exactly. Okay. Or like maybe like an anxiety that's cured with or that's triggered by depression. You know, it's like a social.
You know, if it's raising certain, like, you know, we have melatonin, we have serotonin in our body, in our systems, where, you know, you're lacking one or the other, you're not balanced. So do you know how that affects, I mean, chemically wise in our body?
You know, I'm not really 100% sure. Shelby, do you know the effect between cannabis and melatonin and serotonin and the levels of balance that are in the body? No? Homeostasis affects homeostasis. Okay. Okay. Can you Google that by any chance? All right, cool. Thanks.
I'm just going to be a nerd here. I'm going to be a science nerd here. That I am.
Love it. Let's do it.
I am a science nerd, to be honest. I mean, I studied nursing and the body and a lot of things. Awesome. Yeah, he's going to look that up right now because now you got me interested. I'm not really sure because I know it definitely, it helps a lot with achieving homeostasis. So I'm sure it probably brings them closer to level with one another. Right.
It probably kind of brings it like that. So.
Well, and that just goes back to show you whether or not someone who is affected one way or the other, what is it that they need to figure out for themselves? Are they unbalanced? Are they needing something that, long-term wise, it's going to help them be more functional in a sense.
Well, and it's also like a case study type thing. You could have one strain that works for one person, it doesn't necessarily work for another, and that's one thing a lot of people will learn
based on our own chemical imbalances.
Exactly,
I'm sure.
Based on our own cannabinoid system and everything. I think you found an answer. What was
absolutely
it again?
I can understand that.
Apparently in low doses cannabis can actually boost serotonin, but in high doses it actually can deplete serotonin, and so that actually probably plays into the term smoking yourself sober. Because there's a term that goes whenever people are getting whenever you're smoking, it gets to a point where you're not even getting high anymore and you're just kind of at this little level state and you're not even that people will say, oh, I smoked myself sober. That's probably where that term actually comes from. Little dose of knowledge for all of us. Awesome. Thanks, Amanda.
Right. Yes. See, I have to pick some brain too. Like I said, I don't know much about it. And really, do people really know what they're smoking or doing, when they're taking it?
Certain people do, certain people don't. It also depends on the user itself, because you go into a dispensary, you'll have the person that's a gigantic geek that wants to know who the farm is, who's the cross strains, it's how did that strain come to be, what is it bred with, whether you'll have the geeks, and then you'll have some people that just put the weed in the fucking bag, I don't care, you'll have some people that just don't care. So you can go all over the place. Some people just but also some people are also misled with certain things too. They'll think I smoked a sativa once and it gave me a panic attack and I can't smoke those anymore, and be like, well, it was probably the strain you had, but that takes a long time to educate someone on such a quick in and out process, because dispensaries are flooded and everything, and they have tons of different stuff.
Right. Medically, it's dose too, from a healthcare perspective. And, you take too much or you don't take enough, then
it's not good for you.
It's not good for you. It's either not therapeutic or it's too much, and which is harmful. So, medically, if people are using it for those purposes, then just maybe you should be educated. You should be in knowing what you're using, what you're doing, who you're getting it from, safety purposes. It's just I would look at it as more of a safety concern too. If you didn't, you just don't.
Luckily, a lot of that nowadays, because of the rec cannabis game, and even back in medicinal days, a lot of that is so regulated now. They even have this website you can go on. It's called Seed Finder, and you can literally look up a strain and look up the entire lineage of that strain and know exactly. You can. There's so much information out there, but education is something that's really been being pushed in the cannabis realm, in the cannabis industry, the cannabis community, because there is a lot of disinformation out there, and there's a lot of people that will have the wrong information and be like, wait, no, this is actually this is the way it works, and and there's a big push for education right now, but finding a centralized education platform is really tough, especially when you have different states that have different regulations, you have different views, you have red and blue cities and red and blue states, and then I'm in a recreational legal state right now over here in Oregon, but there's certain counties that won't even open dispensaries still to this day, it's kind of there's definitely a lot of different perspectives and stuff on it. And I think before we change subject, Shelby, you had something about the melatonin. It does increase melatonin production. Oh, okay. All right. So that's why it makes you sleepy, probably. Gotcha.
Right.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you freaking got a little cannabis education here on the Hippy Speedball Podcast. That's what we're all about.
I mean, the thing is, it's a big business now. It's
very much so.
It's a huge business. And then you have to look at, okay, is this becoming more something people are looking at profitable, for profit purposes, or
there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that, unfortunately.
And what is it that you're getting? And then also I'm really curious on where it could lead for pharmaceutical companies too, because realistically, if it becomes more and more of a medical situation, which it already sort of has, like I said, doctors are prescribing it for patients who have chronic illness or surgery, things like that. And, where is it going to go, and how much more can it be regulated? How much more is it going to influence, that side of business, so to speak, pharmaceutical companies?
Yeah, definitely. And
healthcare.
There needs to be a bigger push towards that, because I had a guest on the show. Her name is Maytal. Shout out to Maytal. She's a freaking great person. She was actually talking about how there needs to be like a really good like regulation, or like kind of a more push for like the medicinal side of things, like a more pharmaceutical side things, because I asked her, I was like, how do you kind of see those things overlapping? And she was saying like, it would be really cool to see it treated in certain places like a pharmacy, to where you actually have pharmacists and doctors and people like that are kind of more running it, rather than the whatever commission is running it at the time. Over here in Oregon, we have our liquor commission running cannabis. Makes no sense at all why the people that control alcohol are also controlling weed. Completely different things. Right.
And from the medical standpoint, it is important, especially if it is now being prescribed to patients for reasons, and it needs to be more educated, just like anything, if you're using opioids and you no longer have access to it, or you become more tolerant, where you need more, or it's not regulated in a sense, you start getting it in a different place. You're not maybe getting it through a pharmacy, or you're not getting it through your doctor. You're getting it through people. What are you getting? How much are you getting? And that is just so scary. If you're going outside and you're having to feel like you're lost in that sense of, what do I do for my medical purposes? And, people overdosing, people getting something that's not what they think they're getting. So if it's going to be regulated for a medical purpose, well, it should, in that sense, it should. People need to feel safe with whatever it is that they're using, and for those reasons, and understanding what it is that they are receiving and putting in their bodies. And, especially if you have a chronic illness, or you have cancer, if you're immunocompromised, if you're already in a place of, ailment for your health, you need to know what it is that you're putting in your body, because are you going to make it worse? What are you doing for yourself? In that sense?
And that's where the education really ties back into there, because learning about your cannabinoid system and what works and what doesn't work and everything, and also like it'll help with not necessarily just the medicinal side, but even on the recreational side, like the people that just maybe want to enjoy it, like it's just like with alcohol, drink responsibly, everything's good in moderation. Like even if you just want to enjoy it for rec purposes, by all means, but still handle your shit, handle your life, it's like be able to do that. Don't be the stereotypical stoner from the movies that made us all look bad for years and years and years and years and years.
Right, absolutely. And that's where I was saying earlier, not judging as a whole, but understanding individually, what is it that is their purpose? If like I said, if someone that's close to you, is it something deeper? Is it a depression? Is it a disorder?
When anything doesn't serve a purpose in your life, when something doesn't serve a purpose, it's time to get that out, whether it be, people, places, or things. It doesn't matter.
Right. Absolutely.
if
So
something doesn't serve a positive purpose, it's time to just nick that out.
nothing to lose when you say goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. It's like in one of my favorite movies, A Bronx Tale, he was talking about, trouble's like a cancer. If you don't cut it out, it's going to freaking kill you before, you can take care of it, and it'll take care of you before you can do anything about it. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, on that note, we should probably sign this off. Amanda, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me
and hanging out. I'm excited that you're my buddy now, and I'm excited to talk more in the future. And I'm really pumped to watch your career boost up. And thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me today.
No, thank you. And thank you for supporting. Like I said, it really means a lot, and as a creative and, just, being able to impact others, and whether it's 10 people, it's one person, it's 100 people, it's 10,000 people, it doesn't matter. It's what is it that you're doing to impact positively for others, and
exactly
that's the point of it.
Well, and and as you and I are on this climb and on this journey that we're on right now to whatever the universe is going to take us, it's important to use that platform to spread as much positivity as possible, and to kind of show people, hey, if I have a way to explain this that I feel like might benefit someone, then it's really our obligation to do so, isn't it?
Right. There's enough pollution out in the world, right? There's enough of that. We need to clean up a little bit.
There's enough pollution. Let's throw a little fragrance out there. Why not? Forget about it.
Right. Right.
Awesome. Thanks
again, some more oxygen. Thank you. Right. Thank you so much, Joe. Bye, everyone. So nice meeting you.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the Hippy Speedball Podcast. It is Joe, your host with the most, Joe, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.